ॐ नमो भगवते श्री अरुणाचल रमणाय। 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 ॐ नमो भगवते श्री अरुणाचल रमणाय।
यत्स्वप्रकाशम् अखिलात्मकम् आसुषुप्तेः एकात्मनाम् अहम् अहमित्यवभाति नित्यम् बुद्धे समस्तविकृतेर् अविकारी बोधृ तद्ब्रह्म तत्त्वमसि केवलबोधमात्रम् तद्ब्रह्म तत्त्वमसि केवलबोधमात्रम् यत् स्वप्रकाशम, which is self-illuminating, yat swaprakasham akilatmakam, who shines in everything and everybody. Yat swaprakasham akilatmakam asushuptehe, it shines when you are awake, when you are at sleep, and when you are dreaming. Ekatmana aham iti avabhati nityam. Only one atma is there, and it is shining in everyone as I, and it is always shining, nityam, ever shining. And buddhe samasta vikrutehe, all modifications of the mind and the intellect, this is the witness, and you are that, and that has to be confirmed again and again in your mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's what we do together. Confirm it again and again and again. And when the satsang is over, you confirm it again and again and again. And you keep confirming, and then you slip, and you keep confirming, and you slip, and then one day, there's no need to confirm because that's what you are. So this confirming is because of this doubt that we are separate. And the mind is going out. And everyone and all the people who keep complaining about mind, they should not even bother about mind. They should only bother about themselves, remembering their own true self. And when they are looking in, the mind will follow them. Because mind is always following you. You as that ego, that individual sense. When it is moving outward, when it's looking for things, mind helps you to get that. But let's say you turn inward 180 degree and you are looking to the self, only looking, then mind get confused. Because mind only knows action. Mind only knows how to procure things from the matter. Mind is of matter and it is after things of matter. Mind has no clue about something beyond it. That's why when we talk about self-abidance, it just looks in wonder that what it is. Like it is your servant who can accomplish everything, but when it needs to know yourself, only you can know yourself, not the mind. You go through any type of literature in the world about spirituality, only self can know self. And you are worried about mind to know self. This is the problem. The moment you leave mind, whatever it is, and you establish as what you are, then there's nothing else needs to be done. But because our habit, our means our ego's habit, is to procure things always with help of the mind, and we keep going outwardly with help of the mind, you can never ever know yourself with the mind. So because we are using a wrong tool for a wrong job, you can't ask a plumber to do the electrical job, it's exactly like that. So our starting is wrong. And then comes a long journey with so many different disciplines, so many different ways to know self. And most popular nowadays, I should say, is like something like yoga. So you get your body study, then you get your breath study, then you get your mind study. Why you have to worry about all these parts of matter when you can be that which you are that? And so this is a very long journey, an arduous journey. Though this also can lead to there's no doubt about it, but it is a very long journey. You are using the tools which are, you want to settle everything, then you want to reach. Why you want to delay? Why you want to go this way? And I'll tell you, the mind always takes you from no shortcuts, long path, because it does not know. It always knows how to do something. It is a doer, and the ego is a doer. So they have a very good close relationship, ego and mind. They both know to do. So let's say if I start telling you that you close this nostril and then you put this hand on the top and then do it every day for 10 minutes, and then you will know the self. Everyone will start doing it. And that's what happening all over the world. You see new age gurus, they tell you techniques, and the foolish mind only knows technique. And everyone is after technique. Everyone wants a technique to be told how to know self. And this is the problem. And this is the trap also. That so many gurus and their techniques of, bringing your legs up or doing this or doing that, and looking into your third eye and then fourth eye and then fifth eye. This is all, there's no need to do all these things. These are gymnastics. They can also take you, but it will take too long. And there's no surety. Why there is no surety? Because there are a lot of pitfalls. And the biggest pitfall is because when you use the body and mind to achieve that, then what happens is, as you're purifying the mind and the body, people start getting these siddhis or powers. And these are really big trap. And then anubhutis, lot of experiences coming and going. And then you are attracted to those. Who is attracted to those? Your mind. And then if you get, by, I don't say grace, or maybe I should call it disgrace of God, that you get some siddhi, then you are trapped, you are gone. Then you will keep showing people that, look, you put hands up and then something comes in the hand. Then you get wrong people around you, all who are after the objects. Here, these objects around you is still an obstacle. Why? How come then you are producing these objects from the air or whatever? That will be a big problem. And then you will gather the people who love all these types of chamatkars, all these types of magical things, That is not at all a freedom. So first thing is, if you take approach of your body, your mind, your breath, and all these drama, it takes long. But then it has a lot of obstacles. Best is what Bhagwan says, self-inquiry. Who is inquiring about the self? You. Who are you? The moment you jump onto this question and you take an intense look into this question, the question dissolves, the questioner dissolves. Only thing left is self. Because all these paths which take you to that what you are, they are very arduous. It's like a round and round circle. And at the end, whether you reach or not, who knows? So a lot of people actually take a break and they stay there only for next many births. Because the thing is, they are enjoying, they have power, they have abundance, they have siddhis or whatever it comes with those things. Or maybe they are feeling peace. But they are not free from one thing, what they think they are. They are stuck at the ego level. And sometimes all these abundance and siddhis and powers and all makes it a big trap, big illusion, bigger than before. Because now they are happy in this ego, which is purified. And then they have no chance to go backward, look further, because they are stuck up there, because they are enjoying that. That is why you see so many saints and sages have said that suffering is a bliss. Because a lot of people around us who are having a good time in their life, they don't bother about what is God. Then some people, their life, they have a disaster or tragedy. Then they look, is there any real happiness? And then they look on this path. And there are very few who have no issues, but they still look to know who they are, what God is. That is grace. So suffering is also a grace, and this inquisitiveness to know that what actually we are or what is God is also that grace. So rather than taking any other path, if we sit with this question, who am I? And just stay with that, not asking a question, but looking quite deeply, intensely, then the one who is looking, this I amness, that dissolves in that seeing. But it is not a process. It might be a process of few seconds for some people, but for some it might take some time, maybe weeks, months, or years. And you have to continue till everything dissolves in this pure seeing. And this pure seeing is satsang. This pure seeing is our true nature, or that's what we are, our real self. Until that happens, you continue. You wake up and you stay. You wake up, you stay. You wake up, you stay. You wake up, you stay in this. Nothing else, no other business. Other businesses are happening on their own. It is only the ego which thinks that unless you pay attention, things will not happen. Things just happens. Things just happens whether you like it or not. Just observe a day. You take a holiday, you stay in your house or whatever, things will keep coming to you. Problems, good, bad, issues, whatever has to come, this will just come, whether you like it or not. It is very important to understand that doership or action will delay things. And paying attention, is that what you are? You will not believe, in India there are some sects in which they talk about various levels of achievement. Some say there are 6 levels of attainment. Some says there are 8 levels of attainment. I don't know what they are talking about. Most of them, they keep talking about moving from body level to mind level to sensory level to intellectual level, or they talk about astral plane and this plane and that plane. And they have so many concepts over concepts over concepts that even when they will be abiding in self, they will have a doubt that, look, I have not seen light, I have not heard sound, I have not heard that. And so that means I don't know which level I am. And when you see they are practicing for last 20, 30, 40 years, they always talk about with each other, what level are you on? As if it's a gradation. This is all mind's techniques to delay things. And they accept these things because they think, oh, okay, so I've reached up to this level or that level, or, and they categorize even sages on different levels, that this person can't be at that level. What is a level if you are abiding in self? You are self. If there are levels, let them sort out themselves. Why should mind should be bothered about those levels? If you see, even in real spiritual seekers, there are a lot of issues. Depends from which sect they come from, what type of book they have read, what type of knowledge, what type of people they are coming across in their group, and what are their concepts about this thing. Religious backgrounds and concept, there are so many concepts about so many things. Same is in spirituality. But if you want to break with all the concepts and everything, you just practice and keep practicing to pay attention to pure awareness. Just be a witness, uninvolved witness. Don't worry about anything. Don't worry about your mind, what you're doing, wherever you are, whatever. Pure seeing has nothing to do with your religious background. It has nothing to do with your theories of karma. It has nothing to do with about your profession. It has nothing to do about anything. When people used to keep asking Bhagwan, tell us something, what else can help? What else can help? Because to practice is very hard job. People want someone else can do practice. That's why they say, come to Bhagwan. Bhagwan, with your grace, I might get enlightened. Bhagwan says, my grace is always there, But you do your efforts. And Bhagwan knew people who were really true seekers. He asked them to leave even his ashram. Go to Palaikotu and just live in a hut and just keep looking into it. He even scolded people who were busy in the ashram affairs. He said, this is the reason you came here. You came to know yourself. Do your sadhana. It's not that people all around Bhagwan got enlightenment just because Bhagwan was there. And who didn't get enlightenment even when Bhagwan was there were the biggest fools, because they were more interested. They were lazy people. They were just sitting with him, having food, relaxing and thinking that Bhagwan will do everything. You have to do. Bhagwan is there to guide you. He is there. His grace is there. There were people who not even saw Bhagwan. They were at the gate, like Mastan. And they got enlightened, just on the gate of ashram. So this all is your own efforts. No one else can do it for you, not even Bhagwan. But yes, Bhagwan has given the purest teaching and method, and practice it and practice it. Even if you read thousands of books or Upanishads, they all talk about the self, that you have to practice to be there, not in the mind. Get rid of the ego. Without ego, what is left is pure self, nothing else. And how to get rid of ego? Not believing in ego, believing only in self, and practicing to pay attention to the self till you get firmly established in it. Firmly established because of old habit, we keep moving into the mind game. We have this doership. Even in sadhana, some people have lot of ego, that I do 3 hours of sadhana, or I have done 50,000 of japas every day, or whatever it can be. Because again, all these actions are done with mind, and the mind can boast about these things. That can be a big obstacle. So just paying attention to pure awareness, uninvolved awareness. And if you sit, you will know what it is. You cannot mistake your ego, your individual identity with that. Wherever I amness, it is beyond I amness, that I amness, that doership, that ego, we all can identify. So the one which can watch it, one which is watching it, but has no expert commentary about things. So what would you call it? What would be the best name for that thing which is watching but not having any commentary, any mind? Mind is not helping that awareness. Mind is only helping the ego. The commentary of mind, all thoughts, emotions, it's all coming to that entity, which is a mixture of your consciousness believing in the body-mind complex as real, as itself. So this mixture is wrong. This is confusion. This is illusion. When you as consciousness step down and start thinking that you are this body-mind intellect complex. And how to detach? Simple method, just staying as awareness only, and not owning your mind, your body, your intellect, your actions, your life, people, word, things, object. And you can do it in a fraction of a second if you decide none of them, what you can hear, see, feel, touch, is you. Not for 1 second but forever. None of that is you. If none of that is you, then nothing affects you. Then you are free. You are free in a fraction of a second. In a fraction of a second. You might have heard a story of King Janak, who heard about enlightenment. And he was a king. And he read that it can happen instantaneously. He heard about this. So he asked all the learned people around him about the same thing. Can it happen in a fraction of a second? They said, yeah, we have heard, but I think most of the time you have to do practice. He said, no, I don't have time. I just want like this in a second. Instantaneous enlightenment. That's what I want. Though this story is few thousand years old, but maybe he was more like in Kali Yuga person, wants everything instantaneous, instant coffee, fast food. And nobody could do it, but then one guy came and he said he can do it. And he was Ashtavakra. So I would suggest you can read Ashtavakra Gita. And this man was called Ashtavakra because he was deformed at 8 parts. His body was all deformed. And when he entered the kingdom in palace, everyone started laughing. So he was given a seat. He sat next to King Janak and he asked King Janak, are these all people trading in leather? He said, no, they are all my relatives or my ministers and quite learned people. Why do you think they trade in leather? He said, when they saw this body, they were laughing. So I thought they know only the body, not what is inside the body. And then there was complete silence. And in that complete silence, he asked King Janak, what do you mean by instantaneous enlightenment? He said, for me, instantaneous means like I go for a horse ride every day. When I put one leg in the stirrup and then I jump onto the saddle, it usually, I don't know how long it takes, maybe a few seconds. That's what I called instantaneous, like this, when I sit on my horse. Can I get in that time? He said, Ashtavakra said it is too long. It can be much quicker than that. But you have to follow you have to promise 3 things to me. Then it can happen. And King Janak said, yeah, I can give you 3 things. What 3 things are you talking about? He said, whatever you want, all my treasury is open for you. You can pick up whatever you want. He said, okay, all your kingdom, everything, whatever you own is mine right now. Do you agree? He said, okay, I agree. He said, and I want your body. I can do anything with your body. Do you agree? He said, no ownership of your body. He said, yes, I agree. And he said, the third thing is I need your mind. Can you give me your mind? He said, okay, I'll give you all these 3 things. And he agreed because he was desperate to know what that reality is.
Sanjay, you have to repeat that because we lost your voice.
Yes, can't hear.
Okay. So he asked for 3 things, Ashtavakra, that you have to give me 3 things. All of your wealth and whatever you own in this world. The second is your body and third is your mind. If you can give me these 3 things, then I can show you what you are. And he agreed. So he said to him that you go, leave this and sit on my shoes and my disciples' shoes, So King Janaka thought, what this? But then he realized that body doesn't belong to him. So he went and he started walking towards that. And when he was walking, he thought that what all these people will think, that how crazy I am as a king. I've given all my wealth and now sitting on my shoes. And there Ashtavakra shouted, you are not allowed. You have already given me anything. All these people belong to me. How can you think that they will think that king, you are no more king? Then he said, sorry, I'm so sorry. Look, yeah, I have already given you wealth. And then when he was walking, he started thinking, how foolish I am looking right now in front of everyone when I have been asked to do all this thing, which looks so crazy. Then Ashtavakra again said, you have given your mind. Why you are thinking? You are not allowed to think anything. You have given your mind. You have no mind. And in that flash of a second, he knew that who he was. In that flash of a second, everything finished. And he could not move. And Ashtavakra said, you come back. You don't have to sit on my shoes. This is instantaneous enlightenment. When you wholeheartedly give up whatever you think is yours. Closest is the body, mind, everything what you see around. And then what is left is what is you. So where all these methods have come, long, arduous methods, but your longing should be so intense like King Janak that you want right now. If you want right now, it will come right now to you. If you want to delay, then it will happen when you want it to happen. And if you don't want it to happen, it will never happen. It does not follow law of karma. It does not follow any other law except your own purest intention to know it. Awareness that absolute, that God, Paramatma, Ishvara, that doesn't see what type of work you are doing right now, good work or bad work or charity or no charity, or you're tall, dark, whatever, which country. It doesn't bother, because the absolute knows this is just a role playing. Some people are playing really bad roles and some are playing good roles, but they are all role playing. And if you have zero interest in the role playing, whatever you are, good or bad, doesn't matter. You are free at that moment. So there's nothing else needs to be done.
When
No
there is
preparations.
Superimposition. When there is no superimposition, automatically everything drops.
You might have heard that your longing should be so intense as if the body is on fire and you want to jump in the river. It will happen like this. But if it's a lukewarm approach, maybe I'll look into it, when I'm free. You can never be free. This Prakriti, this nature will keep giving you work, and when all the works will finish, then diseases to the body. And if you don't want to be free, then disease of the mind. And if you don't want to be free, then life is gone, and the next life may be some type of creature who can't even think to be free. At least a human being can think to be free. So this is all grace. Sitting together in this satsang is a grace on all of us. Don't take it lightly. It is a matter of very serious nature. Serious because this is your moment. You are still alive. You are in a human body from where you can transcend. you can take your flight, and by that grace, you are interested in it. I can't tell how much interest you have, but this I can say that definitely you have interest. Otherwise, you would be watching a movie now or doing something else. Because of your interest, this satsang is happening. It's not that satsang is happening and you have entered into it. Satsang is happening because of you only. You are the special guest. You have been given the best seat, like King Janak. And unfolding is happening in your heart. You are touching the source. And you are dissolving in the source. And source is none other than you. You in your purest form. That formless form. Though we always talk about the body, mind, and going into the heart, and there it's the source, but that source is all pervading. It has no direction, no boundaries, nothing. In all of us, we are all the same. These images are in us. We are not in these images, these forms. And every form is unique with its own character, with its own role playing. But all these images wants to go back to the source. Like they are saying now, I just want to retire or relax forever. I have played so many roles at so many times. And I'll tell you, your application for retirement is always accepted by Absolute if it's sincere request. Not that you are just testing. If you're testing, how can you test the Absolute? If you love your silence, you become silence. If you love God, you become God. And if you love ego, then you become egoistic. And if you love both, you stay in somewhere in middle. Like there are different shades of gray between black and white. From complete ignorance to complete bliss, complete purity. Some people start categorizing as levels, but who cares about this journey in between? If you want to finish, you can finish in a second. Awareness is always waiting to hug you. Grace is always there. I'll tell you very, very clearly, sage has no choice to shower grace on one person and not on other. Actually, as a matter of fact, it's not even having a desire to shower grace because it has no individuality. If someone comes with folded hands, humble, looking for that awareness, he gets it. Without even talk, he goes. And if someone comes with a closed heart only to criticize, he does not get anything. So again, it is your own intention which does the job. And it is your own humbleness that you give credit to the sage, that because of him or her, you got enlightenment. He's just there. But yes, that's why we say the power of satsang, power of sage is much more than whatever you are doing on your own. Because on your own, what you're doing is mind game. There you are going and sitting next to awareness only, not another mind. Don't think when you go and you meet Bhagwan, you are meeting a person. There is no person there. You are going to that energy source, which is pure awareness. And when you go there, it elevates your consciousness because you are interested and you become that awareness rather than that person. If you are eager, the cosmos will create something for you to abide in your heart. It's your own inner call which makes everything will happen for you. You will be served in the most perfect way. What you are after, you are already that. You have never lost it. So just stay as pure awareness. And your mind will follow you. Because that seeing is so pure, self-effulgent. It will burn away your mind. It will finish off your mind. Have you seen one sage who after enlightenment start indulging in stupidity? If he is indulging in stupidity, he was never abiding in self. He was just faking it. Check one person in this world who was a true sage, and after abiding in self, he opened a liquor shop or did something more crazy. I don't know what should I say, but everyone just talks about that only. Why is it? Because of this unending joy coming from the pure self, which never ends. There's nothing else to talk because he is coming from a region which you have never seen. and he tries to convey with words which are always fall short of it. You can write thousands of books, you can do lectures and lectures, but no one can convey, because who is conveying is a body mind. It is very inferior as compared to that. It is like you are a child, you have never seen a paradise, and you enter in paradise, and then someone asks you, can you describe, and you don't know what to compare with, how to describe it. And you keep describing, but whatever you describe, you still can't describe. And so thousands and volumes of books have been written and said, but nobody can describe. Because it is not an object which you can identify and can describe and give characteristics. That's what the mind does. That's what the science has done. We all can describe something which has attributes, which has form, which has shape, which has color, which has smell. But we can't describe our own pure self. We can only give hints. And those hints are known as pointers. They are only pointing towards it. But when you know your own self, then you understand all those points so clearly, so vividly. And you also have compassion for all those teachers, because it is never that easy to explain it. You can point, but what you're pointing is not actually describing, because it's indescribable. You can be that and then know yourself. It is actually something out of this world. Nothing of this world. All the objects, everything, which we call as nature, prakriti, maya, illusion. Why we call it illusion? Why we don't say it is real, what we are seeing in front of us? When we can touch, feel, hear, it looks so real to us. Why we call it always unreal? Why? Why all the books say it's unreal? Why they don't like it? It's not they don't like it. You see, every sage who has come across on this earth, has lived on this earth, have so much of compassion for all these things which they call as unreal or maya or illusion. They have love for all objects and beings. But they still call it unreal. Because anything which is changing, which is impermanent, is unreal. And because you think it is real, you suffer. But when you know the substrata on which all these images is changeless, real, always same, then there is no grief, because nothing goes away anywhere. Then you know the dream and the word is exactly the same. You see a dream at night, there are objects, there are things, and then everything dissolves. Same thing happens here. When you leave this body, everything dissolves for you. For you, it is the end of your dream. You can argue for others, the dream is continuing, but who cares? Same is, enlightenment is happening to a person, not to the whole world around you. So for you, the word ends the moment you die. And the moment you realize, you are realized. So everything is because of you only. The whole world is because of you, and realization is also of yours. You are the source of the world, and you are the pure self. Everything starts and ends with you only. You are the center. Everything revolves around you only. You are so special, so precious. You are not big, you are not small. You are what you are. And your seeing is so pure. It does not elevate you to any level, or if you don't know, you go down. You go down because you think you are down. Because you think you have attached with this gravity because of this body. You are not. The moment you know you are pure awareness, all the extra baggage, this weight of the body disappears from you. Though the body weight stays the same, but you don't feel it. Body does not carry any weight. It is the ego which carries weight. All the baggage is of ego, which owns this body mind. There is not much work needs to be done to know yourself. Just keep quiet. As Bhagwan says, Summa Yeru, you just keep quiet. Is not asking you to keep quiet means you're not going to speak anything. But this constant chatter going on in the mind, next thing, next plan, next agenda, like, dislike, judging, criticizing, analyzing, which some people call as a scientific mind. Yes, scientific mind might be doing good stuff. I don't know, but it's a busy mind, very busy mind. And it can be an egoistic mind because I have done this, I have invented it. And people are proud of all these inventions which have only created world wars, nuclear bombs, and things like that. And we feel proud of it. When you detach yourself from this mind, you stay as awareness. Probably you might not get more comforts, but you will be contented and peaceful in whatever you are, whatever you have or you don't have. That deep peace dawns on you all the time. This is the guarantee. Rest all is whatever is in your destiny or in the script. But one thing is sure, that you will become fearless because you know this awareness is immortal, all pervading, eternal, timeless. It never changes. And you become that changeless entity. You are always that. So whether beings like you or not, people love you or hate you, nothing matters. Like when you are seeing a dream, and in that dream, you become aware that it is a dream. Your attachment drops at that moment from everything in the dream. And you don't have to run away from anything. It is such a pure seeing that no doubt is left. Mind becomes dumb. Mind has no idea. Mind only feels the aftershocks of your own vision. It has no clue. Only thing which reaches mind is peace, contentment, joy, because it has no clue. It only tells you what it thinks is happening or happened. Because mind is just a reflection. And how mind tells others is by a language. And language is always incomplete. But yes, there is one thing which can tell you the truth: pure silence. Silence conveys you the truth. Silence of deep peace. And that silence pervades. Body through which that silence is being experienced, in body in which self is abiding, that leaves vibrations of pure silence after thousands of years. Can you believe this? You go to Bodh Gaya, you go to Yog Vashisht Gufa cave in Rishikesh, deep silence. You go to Ramana Ashram, you go to the caves in Arunachala, Skanda Ashram. That silence is there. Body has moved from one cave to the other, leaving behind silence, pure silence. Pure silence forever. The body has disappeared, and silence is pervading. This is the power of that silence. It has changed the vibration of that area forever. And that is what we call as sacred places, pilgrimages. That pure energy changes the energy of that area forever. We all are the temple of God. Let that God manifest in us. And we should vacate this position for God by staying in egolessness, by accepting whatever is happening. Detaching completely like King Janak, with body, mind, and all possessions. Without giving, you are giving away all these things. Complete non-attachment to the body, to mind, and to everything around. And truth is, none of these belong to us. It is our wrong perception that this all belongs to us. If it belongs to us, then how someone can take away? Why then the body dies? Why things keep changing? If we possess. And just go one step backward. When you came to this world, have you brought all these things? This body, all relations? Everything came with your existence. Nothing belongs to us. It is not an intellectual thinking. It should be our own. Our own experience that nothing belongs to us. Only thing belongs to us is this godly principle. That's all. Everything is part of matter. Matter is always changing. And we know this. We were born as a baby, now we are getting older, and the body will turn into dust. What are we proud of? Whatever good looks or whatever it is, or wealth, everything will disappear soon. So why don't we accept it now wholeheartedly and stay as awareness and pay intense devotion to awareness only, self-attention. With that self-attention, everything will get disentangled. Right now, consciousness is entangled with the body-mind, making us a one unit, which is ego. Paying attention to the self, everything resolves. And what is not true dissolves. Your ego, your personal mind. And what is left at the end is only love. Unconditional love. Unconditional because ego also knows a love, selfish love. Keep constant attention on the pure self, pure awareness. Don't move away even for a flip of a second from it. This is sadhana, this is practice. If you call it a practice, then this is practice. If you slip back into the mind game, into the personal mode, come back exactly like King Janak did when a thought came to him that what these people will be thinking about me doing this foolish act. And then Ashtavakra said, you are not allowed to think, you have given up your mind to me. Because he was a king, he has given a promise, he kept his promise. And because he kept his promise, because he has given up his mind, whatever left was, he could acknowledge it instantaneously. This is leap of faith. You jump, you transcend. One jump and the game is over. And you can take this jump right now. Don't postpone it. Don't listen to anything. Don't ask your mind. If you do it, mind will follow you. And stay in this energy of your own silence. Love it, respect it, have faith in it. This is only support you should rely on. When you rely on your own support, all the external support comes to you to keep you there. Thank you, everyone.